Coach, you said yesterday you wanted to get the guys in the gym just to get the mind right heading into today. What was the vibe like? You feel like just when you came from the locker room with the guys?
I mean, yesterday was a typical Suns day. You know, we've always said we're not going to let a win or a loss dictate how we approach the gym. And we walked through some things. We talked about things we needed to improve on. And our guys were locked in and focused on, you know, just having a productive day. We didn't talk about the game much at all because it's, you know, we know it's on our minds and guys want to perform well and win and all of that. But we wanted to keep our culture consistent. We feel like that certainly helps a team like ours with, you know, not that much experience in these situations.
Next up is Dave McMenamin with ESPN, followed by Kellen Olson.
Monty, it's been over a decade since the Suns made the playoffs, let alone made a run like this. How have you seen the city embrace your team?
I just don't. The local media have heard me talk about, because of the virus and just trying to stay safe, man, I go to the arena, practice site, home, airport, you know, and I haven't even been to church in a while. But I have seen it in my neighborhood with people that, you know, putting up signs in the neighborhood and on the gate where I live. That's been pretty cool. So I imagine throughout the city. And I've competed against the Suns over the years, and when they were really rolling with Nash and Stoudemire and Coach D'Antoni, you know, I know what that looks like on the other side, but I haven't felt it. But I do feel it when we go out to the floor. Like that environment, I don't know of any other environment that can touch it. You know, there may be some just as loud, but nobody's louder than our fans on game night.
This is Kellen Olson with Arizona Sports, followed by Sam Amick.
Hey, Monty, DeAndre's ball screen coverage on Saturday was just terrific. When you look at his progress from when you got here, is it recognition, confidence in terms of getting good at that specific thing? Because his progress, it seems like in the last 2 years, he's at a point now where he can dominate the game in that spot. Yeah,
I think the Willie Green has, you know, taken charge of our defense the last 2 years. And, you know, being in the same system, I'm sure it helps. The DA has defensive gifts that not many bigs have. You know, the guy that he reminded me of is like two guys, LaMarcus and Garnett, you know, in pick and roll coverages, the way that they talk and their athleticism to switch and, you know, cover for the guy on the ball. And then the guys around DA really help the ability to get over screens and that kind of thing. But I think the continuity of being in the system for another year and knowing what to call and when to call it certainly helps. But, you know, the guys around DA, Mikal getting over screens, Book getting over screens certainly helps. And having Chris and Jay talking on the backside, those two guys have really helped DA understand defense in a way that's furthered his growth.
Next is Sam Amick with The Athletic, followed by Gina Mizell.
Monty, you know, we always ask you about like off-court communications with your players. You talked about conversations with Pop. I kind of wonder, as you get deeper in the playoffs, you've got a lot of people who care about you or root for you. Is it tough to manage? You know, like I said, is that phone blowing up from people from the past and people reaching out, and how do you juggle that as you try to stay locked in here?
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten a lot of phone calls and text messages. Most people will say, don't text me back. I just want you to know whatever. And I look at it, I'm just grateful to be in this position. At the same time, I want to maximize it. And people understand that. You know, I never thought I'd be here. And so when you do get a chance to be in the spot, you want to do everything you can to do the best you can. At the same time, I don't think there's anything wrong with being grateful and reaching back out to people and just saying thank you. You know, that's all you can do. But for the most part, it's been the same people. My high school coach texts me just about every day to kind of give me a point or two. You know, from Brett Brown to Nate, Doc, different coaches I've worked with. And, you know, all that stuff's pretty cool because when everybody's in those situations, I do the same thing.
Sure.
You know, I was probably the last guy that everybody thought would be in this position. So we just want to maximize this opportunity. We have the utmost respect for what we're going to go against tonight. You know, Ty, as I've said before, is one of the best coaches in the league. And we know that he's been here before and he's been in this situation before. And so our guys know that, I know that, and we know what we're going up against tonight. And even the people who are texting me, they know that, you know what I'm saying? So that's where my focus goes right back to is, you know, how do we have a great first quarter and then, you know, keep going from there.
Next is Gina Mizell with Suns.com, followed by Chris Mannix.
After game 4, we were talking about Book and saying that one of the things you like about him is he doesn't fall into the clickiness of the NBA. And so I'm wondering, when you had those initial conversations with him about like trading for Chris, just what were those like, and maybe what made you think back then that it could be a great partnership just because of what you know about Book's personality, Chris's personality, their work habits, their competitiveness, like all that type of stuff?
I just, having been around Book for a year and then before that knowing Chris for 10, like I knew if nothing else, they both wanted to win. And not just being great players, but great competitors figure it out over time. But I knew at the end of the day, like they just wanted to win, you know. And the conversations with Book, when we got Chris, there was excitement, but then it was like, okay, how can we, you know, what are we going to do to get this thing rolling? And it took us a minute to try to figure out some things that could help them to be straight. I was in the way trying to force what we did last year onto those two guys. And, I feel like up to this point, you know, getting out of the way and letting them figure it out at times has helped us. But to answer your question, I think when you have competitors who want to win, like they're going to figure it out at some point. And it certainly has helped us this year. But the conversations were like excitement. And then it was like, turn the page, you know, how can we, you know, make this thing work? And it's been a ton of sacrifice on both of their parts to mesh well.
Next is Chris Mannix with Sports Illustrated, followed by Mark Medina.
Monty, this game's a big opportunity for the team, for the franchise, but for Chris to potentially get to a finals after all these years. Have you noticed anything about him the last couple of days going into this game, and what do you think it would mean to him to finally get to the finals?
He's been the same. I mean, we talked yesterday at practice. After practice, he had something going on. We were talking about, like, nothing changed. You know, it was all business yesterday. You know, when you work as hard as he has and you've been around it as long as he has and you've been in so many situations, you just think it's going to happen. And sometimes you tend to take it for granted, especially when your contemporaries have been so many times. So from that perspective, I think, you know, Lord willing, we can get there. I think it would be the greatest gift for him. You know, this is, for me, like, this is one of the reasons why I do it. You know, I wanted to be a part of coaching so that I can be in a position to partner with guys so that they can, nobody's talking about me. And you know what I'm saying? That's not how it works. It's about the legacy players, Chris and Devin and guys like Jay who were right there last year. Like, for me to be a part of that, I would be overjoyed and overwhelmed. And that's why my focus from this conversation goes right back to what we got to do in the first quarter to try to give him a chance to do that. But I think it would be huge for him.
Next is Mark Medina with USA Today, followed by Mark McClune.
Monty, good to see you. Following up on Chris, when it pertains to his leadership style, there's always been this kind of conventional thought that, you know, because of his personality, it leads to like mixed results with how veteran teammates receive it, and maybe there's a bigger audience for young guys. How do you look at that, considering how long you've over the years?
I've heard the same thing, so I can relate. You know, when I was in New Orleans, I got there was mixed reviews on my leadership style. You know, my bark was biting, and I think you learn over time leadership is tricky, and it's only leadership if people follow you. Otherwise, you're just taking a walk by yourself. And I think we both, especially Chris, would tell you he's made adjustments to fit the situation. And there are times where he has to, tell people directly what the deal is. And then there are times where I've seen him lead in a different way than he did 10 years ago, 11 years ago. So I just think you learn over time. For me, and I think Chris, it's better to be effective than right. And sometimes when you're in leadership positions, you feel like if you feel like you got to be right all the time, you're probably going to be by yourself, trying to figure out ways to be effective and bring everybody along with you can serve you well. And that's what I've seen with him. I mean, the time that he spends with our players at his house or Book's house, or the dinners that these guys have, I don't know where they get the energy. And then he's on the phone with MBPA and somebody at the White House. It's like, I don't know where he gets all that energy from, but I'm sure through all those experiences, he's learned different ways to be effective in leadership.
Next is Mark McClune with Channel 3, Channel 5, followed by Jovan Buha.
Hey, Monty, you talked a lot when you first got here about how great of a stop this used to be in the NBA and trying to bring it back. And what has it been like to play in front of these crowds at this arena at home during the playoffs? And what kind of atmosphere do you expect tonight?
It's been amazing. It's hard to say who's the loudest. I remember my first time playing in front of the Utah crowd when I was in San Antonio. That at that point was the loudest thing I'd ever been a part of. And then if you've been in the league as long as I have, you're in a ton of venues that are pretty cool. I don't know of anybody that is as loud and locked in as our crowd. And it just reminds me of what it was like, when Nash and Stoudemire and those guys were here with Coach D'Antoni. So to answer your question, it certainly is cool when you first walk out there. And then when I get the clipboard, I kind of lose. I can't even focus on it anymore. So I'm sure it gives our guys juice to play in front of that many people going that crazy when you're out there making plays. And we hope it's an advantage for us tonight.
Good time for three more. Next is Jovan Buha with The Athletic, followed by Sierra Santos.
Hey, Monty, back here. How's Cam Payne doing physically after the ankle injury? And after rewatching Game 4, do you feel like there's maybe ways to get him more involved with Chris back now?
He seems to be doing fine. He had a good workout yesterday. I think he's involved just about as similar as he was when Chris was playing before. When Chris was out, he had more opportunities. And so with Chris being back and Book being out there and McHale and DA, it limits your touches, so to speak. I mean, somebody told me that DA's shots were down by 5 this year. And we have Chris and, McHale's, Jay's out there. So it's hard. But good for us, but hard for the individual. I think Cam just wants to win. I don't think he cares about touches. He wants to win the game. And so we're just going to, play in our normal structure. And if you have the shot, take it. If you don't, get off of it and go from good to great. That's who we've been. That's who we're going to be.
Final two questions are Sierra Santos with Fox 10 and Melissa Rowland.
Hi, Monty. You mentioned what it would mean for Chris to close this out and go to the finals. What would it mean for you? Have you allowed yourself to kind of visualize that yet?
I think it's natural to do that. I'd be lying if I didn't tell you the truth and say I didn't think about it, but my mind goes right back to, preparation and getting ready for the first quarter and actually for the film session. And so I try not to do it. It's a natural tendency. But that's something that I try not to stay in that line of thinking. Pop taught us as coaches to just continue to pound the rock. You never know when it's going to crack. It just comes from that Jacob Riis poem. And that's been my mindset, is to just live in the moment and be present with where you are.
Final question is Melissa Rowland with Fox Sports.
Hey, Monty. Chris made it pretty clear to us that he's a bit superstitious about the 3-1 series lead and that he didn't really want to talk about it. I'm curious, has he been like that around you guys as well? Has that been like the thing over the last 2 days that like you guys just like don't mention?
We haven't talked about it because it's there. It's something that we've earned, but we also realize, talking about it's not going to get it done. We got to work. And as far as it being superstitious, I haven't been here enough to have any superstitions. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it's like, I can't relate. Chris has played in, 500 playoff games, whatever it is. I have not, nor coach. So I don't have many superstitions. I'm going to walk out this room and, get ready for the film session and get ready for the game. If superstitions worked, I'd be undefeated. And so that's pretty clear that they don't work. I'll be praying a lot for sure. So you can count on that.